Welcome back to the channel, MattLapsers. Today we're doing another LEGO time-lapse. This time with set 10,298, the Vespa 125. Weighing in at 1,106 pieces, this LEGO icon set was released in 2022 to celebrate Vespa's 75th anniversary. It even includes a license plate styled after a classic 1960s Italian design. But heads up, if you've had your eye on this one, it's scheduled for retirement at the end of this year, 2025, so get one now if it's on your list. Before we get into the build, let's take a quick ride back through history to see where the Vespa came from. In 2025, the Vespa turned 79 years old. Over its lifetime, more than 20 million of these iconic scooters have been sold around the world. But to understand why the Vespa became such a cultural and design legend, we have to go back to Italy in the aftermath of World War II. Italy was rebuilding, and transportation was a major problem. Cars were expensive and out of reach for the average worker, while motorcycles were noisy, dirty, and not always practical for city life. That's when the Italian company Piaggio, until then mostly known for its work in the aeronautical field, decided to take on the challenge of creating affordable, accessible transportation. Piaggio's first attempt came in 1944 with the MP5, nicknamed Peperino, Italian for Donald Duck due to its appearance. While functional, its odd looks failed to inspire confidence, so Piaggio turned to aeronautical engineer Corradino Descanio, who had never designed a motorcycle before. In fact, he disliked them, but that outsider perspective was exactly what Piaggio needed. Descanio's redesign led to the MP6 prototype in 1945. Unlike traditional motorcycles, its engine was mounted beside the rear wheel. This created a step-through frame that was both practical and elegant, eliminating the need for a messy drivetrain. When Enrico Piaggio, the founder's son, first saw it, he exclaimed, "Sembra una Vespa." It looks like a wasp. With its slim waist, wide body, and buzzing sound, the name stuck. In both Latin and Italian, Vespa means wasp. By April 1946, Piaggio had filed a patent for the Vespa scooter design, which was approved that December. Production began modestly, but demand quickly grew. In 1947, 2,500 scooters were sold. By 1950, that number had risen to 60,000. And in 1953, Vespa's popularity skyrocketed after Audrey Hepburn and Gregory Peck shared a ride through Rome in the film Roman Holiday. That one scene is credited with boosting Vespa sales past 100,000 units. By 1956, Vespa had sold its 1 millionth scooter. By 1970, 4 million. And by the late 1980s, over 10 million Vespas had been sold worldwide. Available in both small frames from the 50cc to 125cc, to large frames up to 200cc, Vespas weren't just practical, they became symbols of style, freedom, and Italian ingenuity. Even today, Vespas are raced, collected, and celebrated across the globe. What began as a post-war solution for everyday mobility has become one of the most recognizable vehicles in history, an Italian design classic, forever buzzing along the roads of time. And now, what you've all been waiting for. Let's roll into the time lapse of this beautiful scooter being recreated with LEGO. I hope you enjoy. Well, that was a blast. What a beautifully done job by the LEGO team to recreate this classic Italian icon. It was a pleasure as always to build, and the final result was worth the effort. Hopefully you had as much enjoyment watching this as I had creating it, and I look forward to seeing you in the next MattLapse. I hope you have a creative and inspired day. Take care.